With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown. Our top stories: political support and regional cooperation, pillars of CBI regional regulator success. Police continue to issue public advisory on avoiding Facebook scams. Governor Antoine provides comprehensive updates on Eastern Caribbean CBI regional regulator progress. Internationally, Israeli forces intercept Gaza activists' aid boat with Greta Thunberg on board. Now, the details. During an address at the St. Kitts and Nevis Investment Gateway Summit on June 3rd, Governor Timothy N.J. Antoine of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCP reiterated the indispensable role of political backing in the establishment of a regional regulator for citizenship by investment programs across the 5 ECCU countries that offer these programs. Governor Antoine, who chairs the Interim Regulatory Commission, IRC, responsible for steering the regional regulatory framework, underscored that the initiative's success hinges on unwavering political commitment.
The heads asked us to do this, and the heads will take this to Parliament and enact before the end of the year.
He emphasized that this unified approach will not only promote sustainability but also enhance transparency, accountability, and integrity both domestically and internationally.
We have no doubt that the establishment of this regional regulator will enhance transparency, accountability, and integrity of these programs, both at home and abroad.
He highlighted the need to address concerns that occasionally arise between member countries and to minimize mistrust regarding the programs. Drawing attention to the comprehensive consultation process undertaken over recent months, Governor Antoine revealed that the IRC engaged with a spectrum of stakeholders, including government, opposition leaders, local agents, developers, financial intelligence units, banks, and international partners from the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union.
We took a deliberate step. It required us to travel and to engage in an intense schedule, but we did not want to draft before we engaged you.
Underscoring the collective ownership approach adopted to shape the regulatory framework. These consultations have enriched the development of the draft legal framework, which has already undergone 2 rounds of review by attorneys general and heads of government. Governor Antoine highlighted the framework's key features. It proposes a single uniform law applying to all 5 countries to prevent regulatory arbitrage and unfair competition. The regulator will be an autonomous legal entity separate from the ECCB, tasked with licensing market participants, monitoring compliance, enforcing standards, and maintaining ongoing engagement with stakeholders to guard against regulatory capture and ensure responsiveness to market dynamics. Governor Antoine proposed an advisory body that would interact with the regulator, providing vital feedback without compromising the regulator's independence. Addressing the broader significance of CBI programs, the governor emphasized their crucial economic role.
If you drive around St. Kitts and Nevis and you like the roads, guess what? That's CBI. Hello? That's CBI. If you go into certain social safety nets in this country, of which there are many, counting in excess of $120 million last time I checked, that is principally CBI.
He reminded participants that for some member countries, CBI revenues constitute upward of half of their GDP, emphasizing the program's centrality to national development. The governor urged all stakeholders to unite in overcoming challenges and seizing the opportunities the CBI programs offer.
All stakeholders, you, me, in this room, all of us in this room, and outside, including our international partners, need to come together in this moment to address the threats that confront the programs, but also to seize the opportunities that present themselves.
The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force remains steadfast in cautioning the public about the rising incidences of online scams, particularly on social media platforms like Facebook, where fraudulent sellers exploit unsuspecting buyers. On June 1st, 2025, a black Honda CR-V was falsely advertised for sale on Facebook by a user going by the name Akeem Harris for EC $17,000. An interested buyer proceeded to make a down payment of EC $4,000 via mobile banking with the assurance that the vehicle would be delivered the same day. However, when the delivery did not materialize, the so-called seller claimed to have missed the boat and demanded an additional EC $6,000 for ownership transfer fees. After receiving a total of 10,000 EC dollars, the seller abruptly became unresponsive and later informed the buyer that he had left the island. Since then, all communication attempts have been ignored. This incident represents just one of many cases where fraudsters exploit the convenience and anonymity that online marketplaces offer. The police remind residents that such scams are unfortunately common and continuous vigilance is necessary. The public is urged to exercise extreme caution when making purchases online, especially involving high-valued items and where sellers cannot be personally verified, the police advisory emphasized. Potential buyers are advised never to transfer money before physically inspecting the item, verifying proof of ownership, and confirming the seller's identity and trustworthiness. Engaging a trusted third party or legal authority during such transactions can further safeguard consumers from falling victim to fraud. It is a case of you can't have your cake and eat it too, police officials caution. If a deal seems too good to be true, it very likely is. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force continues its investigation into this fraudulent vehicle sale and is appealing to anyone with information or those who suspect they may have been targeted to report immediately to the nearest police station or call Crime Stoppers at 707. Governor Timothy N.J. Antwine of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB delivered an extensive update on the progress towards establishing a regional regulator for citizenship by investment programs in the 5 Eastern Caribbean Currency Union countries that offer these programs. Speaking at the St. Kitts and Nevis Investment Gateway Summit on June 3rd at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, Governor Antwine emphasized the importance of political support. He detailed several key milestones achieved in this historic regional effort. He highlighted that the ECCB was explicitly chosen to lead the effort because of its
deep regulatory experience and expertise, and our stellar track record as a regional regulator.
He noted the robust nature of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, one of only 4 formal monetary unions globally, which includes 8 countries, 5 of which implement the CBI programs. Governor Antwine underscored the significance of the stable Eastern Caribbean dollar, which has been pegged to the US dollar for nearly 5 decades, thereby maintaining a low inflation and enabling the free repatriation of profits for investors without foreign exchange controls.
And for investors, this is a wonderful benefit that we must never take for granted, but that we want to leverage to ensure that we bring additional investors to our countries.
He further illustrated the economic contributions of CBI programs, listing infrastructure improvements such as roads in St. Kitts and Nevis and an international airport under construction in Dominica that are principally funded by CBI. According to Governor Antwine,
at least 2 of our member countries rely on CBI programs for at least 50% of their revenues,
underlining the vital role these programs play in economic and social resilience. Outlining the core objectives of the proposed regional regulator, Governor Antwine explained that the framework would operate under a single uniform law across the 5 participating countries. This approach aims to minimize regulatory arbitrage and unfair competition while promoting transparency and consistent standards. The regulator will license all market participants, monitor and enforce compliance, and engage stakeholders locally and internationally. Notably, the governor clarified that the regulator will be
a separate legal entity from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank,
reiterating that while the ECCB leads the setup, it will not manage the regulator's operations. An interim regulatory commission, IRC, comprising representatives from the 5 countries, the OECS Commission, CARICOM Impacts, and the ECCB, is currently overseeing the preparation of the regulatory framework. On the timeline, he reported extensive consultations had taken place with governments, opposition parties, local agents, developers, financial intelligence units, banks, and international partners from the US, UK, and EU.
We are now in a position to submit, as we have done, our draft legal framework.
Governor Antwine confirmed, adding that the draft was under review with prime ministers and that a post-draft consultation would be launched shortly, giving stakeholders time to review and comment.
We've done that. The plan is to share it with you this month, finalize it July, end of July and early August to make a final submission. That's our plan. And then our governments will have between then and the end of this year, December 2025, to enact this legislation into law.
The governor emphasized that political will is paramount.
Without that support, this is dead on arrival. So that is essential.
Other critical success factors include regulatory independence, accountability, transparency through annual compliance reports, enforcement authority, effective risk management, and ongoing stakeholder engagement. Governor Antoine also spoke of an advisory body designed to provide continuous market feedback without allowing regulatory capture, ensuring the regulators remain independent while being responsive to industry dynamics. Governor Antoine reflected on the challenges and opportunities of the Caribbean region, stating,
"We cannot change our history, nor can we change our geography. We live where we live. Slavery and colonialism are realities we cannot escape. That's our history. The fact that we are some of the most climate resilient, climate vulnerable countries in the world, that is our geography. It is what it is. We cannot change that. But we can accelerate and elevate our development trajectory through innovation, which is what CBI was in 1984 when St. Kitts and Nevis pioneered this program, and others have since joined, and collective action, which is what we're doing together now as we set up this regional regulator. I believe we can and will succeed if we come together and we stay together.
In regional news,
the OECS celebrates 44 years of integration under the theme Adapting, Innovating, Sustaining, a unified OECS for a changing world. Ministers of Agriculture in the Eastern Caribbean make a landmark visit to ICA headquarters, accompanied by rural women and youth leaders. And a new regional energy initiative is launched to make buildings greener and more efficient across the OECS. I am Malika Thompson-Snack. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission is marking its 44th anniversary with a powerful message of unity and resilience. The theme this year, Adapting, Innovating, Sustaining, a unified OECS for a changing world, underscores the region's ongoing efforts to remain responsive in the face of global uncertainties while continuing to drive economic integration, climate action, and digital transformation. To commemorate this milestone, a vibrant calendar of events has been launched across member states. OECS Director General Dr. Didacus Jules hailed the occasion as a time to reflect on past achievements while focusing on collective action for the future. Now let's take a closer look at some of the key activities happening across the region to mark the 44th anniversary of the OECS. On June 11th, the OECS Thanksgiving service will be held in person at the Benedictine Mount of Prayer in Cubaral, St. Lucia. It will also be broadcast via live stream on the OECS social media pages. The OECS in the Classroom School campaign will take place on June 11th to the 12th. Students will learn about the OECS from staff of the OECS Commission and will have the opportunity to ask questions and share ideas with technical experts on regional integration. Then on June 15th, persons are invited to attend the OECS 44th Anniversary Fun Walk taking place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And finally, be sure to dress in OECS colors for OECS Colors Day. On June 18th, OECS nationals across the region are invited to wear the official OECS colors, green, yellow, white, and navy blue, as a symbol of shared identity. Wear your OECS colors and share your photographs on social media using the hashtag OECSDay 2025. In a groundbreaking show of inclusion, ministers of agriculture from across the Eastern Caribbean were joined by rural women and young people for a historic visit to the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, headquarters in Costa Rica. The high-level visit was organized by the OECS Commission and ICA and focused on transforming agri-food systems and strengthening territorial communities. It featured dynamic exchanges between policymakers and grassroots leaders, showcasing how regional agriculture can evolve to become more inclusive, climate resilient, and economically empowering. The OECS has taken another big step toward a sustainable future with the launch of the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy in Buildings project. This initiative will support the design of energy-efficient buildings and enable the pooled procurement of green technologies. In partnership with the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the project promises to reduce emissions, cut costs, and accelerate the transition to clean energy in the built environment across the region. St. Lucia's micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, also known as MSMEs, under the Blue Economy, will soon benefit from information sessions all across the island. The information sessions on the OECS's regional MSME matching grant program is targeted at all eligible MSMEs in the fisheries, marine tourism, and waste management sectors. Jack Kingston-Compton has more in this report.
From sea to shore, the Blue Economy is the heartbeat of island life across the Eastern Caribbean. Now, the Unleashing the Blue Economy of the Caribbean, or UBEC initiative, is creating real opportunities for those who live and work by the ocean. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission, through the UBEC project, will launch a series of information sessions across St. Lucia, connecting micro, small, and medium enterprises with support that goes beyond the shoreline. These sessions highlight the regional MSME matching grants program, which offers up to $25,000 for individual businesses and up to $150,000 for value chain group projects in fisheries, marine tourism, and waste management. Business Development Officer for UBEC, Rosemary Pierre-Louis, says the sessions will be instrumental to the growth of local Blue Economy MSMEs.
This facility aims to support MSMEs in building resilience, in expanding production, and this will all lead to greater economic activity for St. Lucia.
The information sessions will be held at the following locations and dates. Castries, Tuesday, June 10 at 6 p.m. Castries City Council. Groselet, Wednesday, June 11 at 6 p.m. Groselet Human Resource Center. Labrie-Choiseul, Thursday, June 12 at 6 p.m. Choiseul Fisheries Complex. Soufrière, Tuesday, June 17 at 6 p.m. Cool Breeze Conference Room. Ansleray-Canries, Wednesday, June 18 at 6 p.m. Parish Hall, Ansleray. Dennery, Tuesday 24 at 6 p.m. Dennery Adventist Church. And finally, Vieux Fort, Wednesday, June 25 at 6 p.m. Ministry of Commerce Conference Room.
At the various information sessions, we will be informing our MSMEs of the application process. We will be introducing to them the forms that will be used and tell them of the process, the various websites that they will be able to access. In addition, there will be a screening form to allow the MSMEs to complete these forms, and assistance will be provided to them at these information sessions to help them complete these forms. These forms will thereafter be reviewed by myself, and then we move on to the training of these MSMEs. At the various training sessions, these MSMEs will be trained in various areas, including sales and marketing, as well as e-commerce, points of sales, environmental sustainability, to name a few, including access to finance, because we have realized that one of the major issues with MSMEs is their ability to access finance.
Business Development Services also provide MSMEs with expert training in areas such as financial management and export readiness. Similar business development services will be offered in the two other UBEC participating islands of Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines later this year. If you're an MSME ready to ride the wave of opportunity, UBEC is here to help. Join a session, learn more, and unleash your potential in the Blue Economy. For OECS Newslink, I am Jack Kingston-Compton.
We now bring you these international reports.
Now, Israeli forces have taken control of a ship carrying Greta Thunberg and 11 other pro-Palestinian activists. The Madeleine, which was carrying a small but symbolic amount of aid for Gaza, was boarded as it tried to break a naval blockade. Videos and images were posted by the crew of the Madeleine as it tried to reach Gaza, including this image showing the crew seated on the vessel, all wearing life jackets with their hands in the air. After which the volunteers said a white irritant was being sprayed onto the decks.
See this light? There's a drone right above us lighting this light. We are getting into position right now. This is take cover. Don't stay to the side.
Right now they're jamming our comms. They are saying random stuff just to jam our communication. They are doing this so that we cannot get help.
Okay, we are masking our face right now. We have helicopters right above our heads, the most dangerous ones, and they are, I don't know what this is. I'm so sorry. We don't know what this is, if this is paint or some chemical.
Well, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition also posted video messages from each of the activists on board the Madeleine, including this one from the Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, who said the team had been intercepted and kidnapped.
I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
We're just hearing on Reuters that the Turkish Foreign Ministry says that the intervention by Israeli forces on the ship, the Madeleine, is a clear violation of international law. That report coming in from the Reuters news agency. Well, Israel's foreign minister has called the voyage a public relations stunt. It says the crew were unharmed and that the ship was being redirected to Israeli shores and that those on board would be returned to their home countries. The Israeli Foreign Ministry circulated what appeared to be Israeli military personnel handing out sandwiches and water to the activists, as well as a video, it says, shows the Navy giving the order on the ship to divert.
The maritime zone of the coast of Gaza is closed to naval traffic as part of a legal naval blockade. If you wish to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, you are able to do so through the port of Ashdod via the established channels and distribution centers.
Let's speak to our Middle East correspondent Hugo Beshega in Jerusalem.
Yeah, Regina, so there have been reports in Israeli media suggesting that the boat has arrived at the port of Ashdod in southern Israel. This hasn't been officially confirmed, and the Israeli authorities say that all 12 passengers of the boat are going to be deported, sent back to their home country. So I think we're not going to be hearing from them before they arrive back in their countries. Now, this is a boat that was organized by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and they said that the goal with this mission was to raise awareness of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza because of the restrictions that have been imposed by Israel on the distribution of aid. Nobody was expecting them to reach Gaza because Israel has intercepted all efforts by organizations, aid groups to breach this naval blockade of Gaza that has been in place since 2007 when Hamas took control of the territory. Now, the Israeli Foreign Ministry described this as a selfie yacht and that the show was over. So we're still waiting to hear what is going to happen to these 12 passengers.
The world's oceans are at risk. Overfishing and coral bleaching are affecting biodiversity and food supplies with billion-dollar implications. World leaders and scientists are in southern France this week to discuss the crisis at a UN conference. Let's take a closer look at the challenges and goals that are shaping this year's Ocean Summit. More than 60% of marine ecosystems are degraded or exploited. It'll take at least $175 billion each year to restore them. The fraction of biologically sustainable fish stocks has dropped from 90% in the 1970s to 62% by 2021, threatening food supplies for more than 3 billion people. Each year, 12 million metric tons of plastic enters our oceans. That's the equivalent of one garbage truck every minute. The summit is urging swift political action and funding to protect 30% of the world's oceans by 2030 and combat marine degradation. The conference comes just as a new documentary highlights these dangers as well as solutions. Our environment editor, Nick Clark, reports.
The ocean is our planet's life support system and our greatest ally against climate catastrophe. Yet it's at a crossroads. We are draining the life from our ocean.
This extraordinary film was released ahead of the Oceans Conference on the 99th birthday of the celebrated broadcaster and naturalist David Attenborough, a lifetime that has seen the health of our oceans collapse in many parts of the world. The film was backed partly by the philanthropic organisation Minderoo, which also funds ocean research. like this project on coral bleaching at a World Heritage Reef in Western Australia. And the evidence shows, despite the enormous challenge of turning this global crisis around, it can be done.
It is hard if you worry about the problem. If you go straight into the solution, it's not hard. It doesn't matter what the White House does or what 10 Downing Street does. The solutions are there. The problems are only getting bigger, right? We are cooking our planet. It's warmed nearly half a degree in the last couple of years. The oceans are getting decimated. But regardless of what anyone says, the solutions are there.
The United Nations conference in Nice will also be homing in on overfishing, brought into sharp focus in the documentary. These remarkable pictures from the film show just how damaging unregulated fishing can be. Here, an industrial trawler scours the ocean floor.
It smashes its way across the seabed, destroying nearly everything in its path, often on the hunt for just a single species.
Almost everything else is discarded, and this is happening across the world. The experts say this conference must be the moment.
Could this be that turning point that we're looking for, where we start to turn things around, where the number of overfished stocks around the world begins to trend downwards instead of upwards, where we see a genuine acceleration in the rate and scale of ocean protection, of marine protected areas, and where we see more finance being mobilised into greater effect.
Finally, a message of hope, of how the ocean can recover if we act in time.
It may not just recover, but thrive beyond anything anyone alive has ever seen. This is the story of our ocean.
Nick Clark, Al Jazeera.
Samah Shhade watches on as Israeli bulldozers demolish her home in the Tul Karim refugee camp in the north of the occupied West Bank. A feeling she'd experienced before, still a scene too difficult to bear. She says Israeli forces destroyed her house not once, but 3 times.
The Israeli forces fully burned my home last year, but I rebuilt it. I fixed the damage and furnished it. We barely lived in the renovated house for 1 month before the Israeli forces raided the camp.
In January, Israeli forces started a major assault in the north of the occupied West Bank. The raids targeted 3 refugee camps, demolishing hundreds of homes, destroying facilities, and forcing tens of thousands of Palestinians out of their homes. A recent Amnesty report says Israel's military operation in the past 4 months has led to the largest forced displacement of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank since Israel occupied it in 1967. Al Jazeera's verification unit has analyzed aerial images of the camps since the assault started. They show how the demolition is systematic. Palestinians say Israeli forces are demolishing buildings to widen or create new roads, making it easier for them to raid the camps in the future.
For 2 years now, the Israeli occupation has been destroying the camps and making them uninhabitable, re-engineering the demography and geography of the camps in a way that changes their symbolism as places that resemble the right of return.
The destruction in the camp requires months to rebuild. People like Samah fear that they might not be allowed to do that or return to their homes.
If they leave me a small space fit for a room, I will renovate it and live in it. I just want to be in the house that has the memories of my late son. He was 24 years old when Israeli forces killed him. I want to be back in my home.
At the end of last month, the Israeli government said it will establish 22 new illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank.
I am confused and dazed sometimes. Everyone is displaced. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go?
Tul Karim, Palestinians fear that their displacement is another example of Israel's long-term plan to annex the entire occupied West Bank. Nida Ibrahim, Al Jazeera.
Car executives have once again been driven into their war rooms. They're concerned that China's tight export controls on rare earth magnets, crucially needed to make cars, could cripple production. Cars today use rare earth-based motors in dozens of components. They include side mirrors, speakers, oil pumps, wipers, and sensors for fuel leakage and braking sensors. Electric vehicles use more rare earths than combustion engine cars. Industry leaders are worried that the situation could become the third massive supply chain shock in 5 years. A semiconductor shortage wiped out millions of cars from production plans between 2021 and 2023. Before that, the pandemic shut factories for weeks. This time, as the rare earths bottleneck tightens, the industry has few good options. That's because China dominates the market. It controls around 70% of global rare earths mining, 85% of refining capacity, and about 90% of rare earths metal alloy and magnet production, according to industry data. The fate of automakers' assembly lines has been left to a small team of Chinese bureaucrats as it reviews hundreds of applications for export permits. In Europe, the region's Auto Supplier Association says several plants have already shut down, with more outages coming.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were political support and regional cooperation, pillars of CBI regional regulator success. Police continue to issue public advisory on avoiding Facebook scams. Governor Antoine provides comprehensive updates on Eastern Caribbean CBI regional regulator progress. Internationally, Israeli forces intercept Gaza activists' aid boat with Greta Thunberg on board. Thank you for listening.